So just a heads up before we dive into this video was filmed 95% around my house. So if you were looking for some crazy B-roll sequences and that's going to convince you to buy this thing like I'm trying to sell you the product, that's not this video. This is me filming around my house, having fun creating this, and just trying to create something educational so that way you can make the right decision if you should buy this Pocket 3 or not. This is not me selling the product to you, because if you want it, you kind of already know that you're going to buy it and you can watch all those videos and go ahead and just buy it. But this is so that way you can make an informed decision about where you want to spend your money. Now that that's over, let's get into it. So let's talk about the important part, the specs, because that is what we care about. It's got this 1-inch CMOS sensor, so it is going to be a little better in low light compared to something like an Action 4 or some of the older Pocket cameras. So it's got a 20mm focal length equivalent, so it's going to be very good for vlogging or for those wider shots. And it's got a constant aperture of a f2.0. It also shoots 4K 120, but you need to make sure you go into the slow-mo area, not the video area, in order to get that 4K 120. It also shoots 10-bit D-Log M, so you do have that log footage, which is going to allow you to be able to play with those colors a little more. The battery life is about 2.5 hours, so it does last for a very long time, but if you get the battery handle extender, it will last basically double that amount. And lastly, the one thing nobody's buying this camera for, and that's going to be photos. You get 9 megapixels. It can shoot JPEG or it can shoot JPEG and RAW in the photo mode. Now, if you put it in panorama mode, it can do 3x3, or you can have it do a 180 and that will shoot JPEG or RAW. So you could have both of those if you want to. So just keep that in mind. You can take photos with it, but you're buying this for video. I know you are, because that's what everybody's buying it for. So let's look at this image really quick. This is the panoramic one. This was shot at an ISO of 50. And the first thing I want to say is it does a good job with the panoramic. And what's really cool is with panoramic, you get all the folders and files that you need. So if you want to, you could create this yourself in Photoshop or Lightroom. And that way you could denoise this image, because we can see how noisy and pixelated this image is. And that might help you out to get a better panoramic shot if you have to use the Pocket 3. And that's just what it looks like straight out of the camera. And we could, do something. We could throw some type of preset on there and maybe lighten it up, and it'll look, okay. You still have to deal with how noisy and pixelated it's gonna look. This is just a normal non-panoramic photo, and it's the same thing, right? If we were to take it and crop in on an area like this tree, let's look. Just pixelated and nothing. It just does not look that great at all. But if we go back out to the way it was, it looks okay. So if you're taking like a wide shot and don't plan to crop at all, you'll be okay. And it's the same thing. We can absolutely color this a little bit if we wanted to, drop that contrast back. I don't know, I might take away some of that yellow and turn a little more bluish tint. And you could get away with having something decent with this, but it's very easy. Joystick here. This is the on button / the record button. We go to this side. This right here is where your micro SD card comes in and out. The back, there's nothing. Nothing on the back right there. And then this side, you have these little holes right here. That is if you want to put the string that comes with it through so you can hold it onto your wrist, That's what that's for. I just choose not to do it because I have no use for that. And now this looks a little different than what you'd get, because this is actually the battery handle. Normally it comes just with this right here, right? You can charge it through the back part right there. But one of the good things with both of these handles, whether it's the battery extender or just the one that comes with the Pocket 3, is you have that filter thread. That way you can put a mini tripod on the bottom just like that. And then we can take it and sit it anywhere. If you want to turn it on, you can hit the power button right here and it'll rotate. So now we're just going to look at the screen. We have all the different settings, right? So this top left-hand corner right here, that is actually just going to tell us how much time we have to record with our SD card. This next one in the middle, if we press that, this is going to tell you what mode you have it in. So this is going to be your face auto detect. So if you're in front of the camera, it'll follow us around. So if you're somebody that moves a lot in videos, or you're recording somebody that moves a lot, or you want to record yourself, you can just sit it down and it'll follow you around, which comes in handy a lot of times when you're somebody like me that, you know, moves a lot when you're doing videos. And it'll even follow you around to the back part as well. And then next, dynamic framing. So dynamic framing basically allows you to keep yourself in focus in a certain area. So for me, I want to stay focused where I'm at right now. So all I have to do is hit the joystick, and I have the top left corner selected because maybe I want to go over here and show y'all my vintage cameras and my shelves over here. Or maybe I want to go over here and show you the light I use, the Aperture 300X. Well, I can do that, and it's going to do its best to keep me in that top left corner. Now, obviously, if you're moving pretty fast, it's not going to get you because it's doing its best to keep up with you. But it's going to do its best to keep you in that top left corner like it's doing for me right now. And the other cool thing is if you want to switch in the middle of it and pick maybe a different corner, right? Maybe we want to be in the top right. It's going to do its best to grab you and keep you in that top right-hand side, all while doing the same video without having to create a second video. Then next is the spin shot. It's 180 or 90 degrees. I rarely ever use this, but you just press this and it'll rotate the camera around like that. And then once it's done, you hit the other side and it does it again. And then you can just go back out, right? And then we can do 180. So we hit that button and now it'll do a 180-degree spin. So you can get some cool and unique shots that way as well. These three on the bottom, they all kind of go together right here. So this is your video button, and this is going to tell you what you're shooting in and what your frame rate is. So 4K 30. And this is just a camera to turn it around. So that's just all you do with that button right there. So it's nothing major. But this video button right here, it goes on and off really fast. So if you click it, watch how fast it turns back. So just keep that in mind when you're using it. But we're in video mode. So we scroll up and we're going to see all the different frame rates we can do, right? So we can do 24 frames a second, 25, 30, 48, 50, 60. And then your resolution, 1080, 2.7K, and then obviously 4K. And then right here, 16 by 9, you can shoot in 1 by 1 if you want to, but it only does that in 3K and 1080p and then 2160p as well. And then 60 frames a second all the way down to 24 frames a second. So I always keep mine at 16 by 9 aspect ratio, but we can go in here and there's some other settings. There's panorama mode, there is photo mode, video, low light, slow-mo, and your hyperlapse mode. And you just go back into that bottom part right here where it tells you 4K 30 times 15 and we'll swipe up. So you can change your rate for your hyperlapse if you want to, or you can turn it into a time lapse and have it custom, or they have some other ones in here as well, like clouds or crowds. And then you can do a motion lapse as well, which is pretty neat. And then you can change it up here if you need to. So whatever your landscape resolution is going to be, and then how many frames you want to do. And that changes depending on what you're doing, because if we change it to time lapse, it also has like this night mode up here with that moon right there that you can click if you need to. So you have that, and that's pretty cool. And then this part up here, same thing, because you can do 4K at 25 frames a second or 30 frames a second. And the reason it does that is because it will create the time lapse inside the camera for you. So with all the files, you can also get the whole thing done and made into a video. And there's a bunch of custom settings as well you can do yourself. So like I have some that are 4K 30 and then some that are 4K 60 if I need to. And then you have vertical mode. So switched to 3K resolution. So if you're going to shoot vertical content, it can only be in 3K. Confirm, turn it around, and now we can film ourselves doing a video, and that makes it a lot easier when you're creating this kind of content. And then all we got to do is swipe up here, and here's our frame rates, and here's our resolution. So you can change that to 60 frames a second if you need to. So you can see this part right here. Next, you have a minus, and then a 1.0x, and then a plus. So if you click on that, we can now zoom in if we need to, all the way up to 2 times. So that is pretty neat. And then if you click on it again, now we can move the gimbal wherever we want. So that is pretty neat and can come in handy if you need to use it. Next is if you're overexposed or underexposed, which comes in handy a lot. And then there is your battery value. And that's basically what all these buttons on the screen do. So next what we're gonna do is, now that we've talked about resolution and your frame rates and we're good with all the buttons on here, there's a couple other things that go with that, because you're shooting at 24 frames a second. So you probably want your shutter speed to be about 1/50. So what you do is you take this and you slide to the left just a little bit. And now here is the camera settings. So exposure, I have it in manual. We're 1/50. We have an even exposure right there. But that's because I have my ISO be able to fluctuate between 15 and 1600. Now you can change that to whatever you want to. You can have it up to 400. You can have it just 50 to 100. That's up to you. Or you can have it singular, where it's 400, 1600, 800, whatever you want it to be at, you can do that. Same with your value over here, right? We're at over 1/30, we're at 1/60, 1/100, 1/160. So you can pick whichever one, but then you can obviously just have it on auto exposure if you wanted to. Because I'm shooting inside with a light, you can see how the white balance changed. So that's completely up to you on how you want to do it. But that is the white balance. And then you have this glamour effect. I always turn it off just because I am not a fan of what it can do. And then D-Log, you can have it in normal color profile. So if you're somebody that doesn't want to edit your colors, click that. If you don't want to throw LUTs on, if you just don't want to color it at all, just do normal color profile. And then you have HLG if you want to. And then we click it again, D-Log M right there. So this is your D-Log footage. And then we go down a little more. We have 2 other ones that are interesting. Focus mode continuous. So if you're moving around a lot, have it in that one. If you're doing a product showcase mode, you can do that where it's just kind of there. And then obviously single focus. So if you're doing something where it's sitting still, you can change the focus the way you want to. Me personally, since I use this to vlog most of the time, like I said, this screen's a little sticky, so it does go pretty quick on things and move around a lot. So it's hard to get right sometimes the first time. But I like mine being on continuous because I use this to vlog so much. And then we have this one right here. And you can see the sharpness level and the noise reduction. I always drop both of those because these things are so sharp and they're just better to have at lower. So I usually do mine at like a -2 and the noise reduction at a -2 as well. And then you have the mic button right there and you can change the mics to whatever you want to. Noise reduction for the windscreen, directional audio, you have front and back, whatever it is, all directions. So you can change that. And then your channel, you can change it from stereo to mono. But that's what that does. And then we'll slide that back and then next slide over this way. And this is just gonna show us what we were recording earlier. That's what this is for. You can turn the audio on right up here. And then this part right here is going to show you all those different clips if you need to get to them. And then next, we're going to jump and pull this one down. Now, this is the big setting portion. This is where all your settings are going to be. So you have the little person right here. This is where you can create those custom ones for you, right? So you can see I have all these different custom ones. You can absolutely create them in here. You can also delete them from in there. Next, this little dot with the circle around it, click on that. Screen rotate and capture. So as soon as we turn this on, right? Let's go back out. It's on. And we turn it. This next one, this is like the settings as I would say, right? Wireless mic. We can turn the mics on from there. And then we have a bunch of settings you can play with in here for that. And then we can go to your gimbal startup direction. You can have it forward or backwards or whatever your last setting was. And then we can go to screen rotate to power off. So if you rotate your screen, you can have it power off never or within 2 seconds. So if I have it like this, it'll automatically turn off, which is a nice thing because sometimes you do forget to turn these cameras off. Then you have this wearable mode, which I've never used, but you can use that if you want to. And then you have this slider control, and you can change that from zoom or gimbal. That is that slider we were looking at on this right-hand side right here. So like I said, you can just click on it and change it back and forth, or you can go into that setting and do it. And then if we go back, the next one is going to be selfie flip button. And then there's this press and hold shutter/record button to cancel the recording. So if you're in the middle of recording something and you decide you just want to delete it, you can hold this red button down and it'll cancel that recording. And then built-in mic audio backup. I have that on, so in case my mics ever fail or I have an issue, I will still have some type of audio on here, even if it's not the best. Then there's this OTG connection, which is if you want to connect it to your Android device. And then you have your wireless connection, and then there's that info for if you want to put it on Wi-Fi. And then you can obviously calibrate your gimbal, which is a very important thing to do. Joystick speed, that one is definitely something you might want to play with and see what works best for you, because if you want it fast, you want it slow, you can change it right there. Video compression. I personally shoot mine in HEVC, but if you want to do it in H.264, the reason I pick HEVC is that way I can use the log settings. So that way, if you have it in H.264, you can't do log, but with HEVC, you can. And then sounds, I have it muted because I don't want the sounds on for this thing if I'm recording. Then you have your reference line and your grid if you want to use that on your videos. And then we have anti-flicker. You can have that on auto. You can change that to whatever your frequency is by where you live. And then next, we have timecode. If you want to turn your timecode on, you can see you can absolutely do that to sync timecodes, which is, you know, a pretty cool thing. And then naming management, if you want to change your folder names or file names. And then screen off when recording. You can have that so that way you don't waste as much battery. I like my screen being on just so that way I can see myself if I need to. And then auto power off, you can change that to whatever you want it to be at. LED button, this button right here, you can turn it on or off if you want it on or off. Then the rest is just normal settings. You have continuous live stream, language, format the card, factory reset your Pocket 3, device info. And then next, this button right here, portrait mode. So if you want to switch it back and forth or have it auto rotate, you can do that. So if you do that, it'll auto rotate back and forth. To me, that's what I use all the time because I'd rather do that than have to hit the button a lot. But after 2 seconds, it turns off like we talked about. So now we turn it back on. And then we're gonna jump to this one right here. This is just your rotational speed. If you wanna have the gimbal slow or if you wanna have it fast. And lastly, gimbal modes, file mode. This is the one I use for 90% of times because I vlog with this. And then you have your tilt mode if you want to use that, where the tilt head's locked, or you can do FPV mode as well, or this FPVL mode. And that is your settings area of the Pocket 3. This front area with the lens is actually one of my favorite parts because that area is magnetic, and magnetic ND filters are always a great thing to have. So this is an ND8, and we're just gonna throw it on there. You can see it got a little darker, but nothing too crazy. But say we wanted to add something cool like a mist filter. You could absolutely slide it on top because it's stackable. These ones are from Freewell. I have a whole video I did on them up here if you want to check those out, because I think these are probably the best ones that you can get for the Pocket 3. But that is a very, very cool feature to me, is just how easy that is just to slap those on and take them off if you need it. This case for your Pocket 3 comes right here. And what's really cool about this is that area right in the middle, right there. You can see I have an ND filter in there, and I could have another one in there. And if I wanted to, and I wanted to have this like all-in-one little thing, I could slide it right on there. And then my Pocket 3 goes right into there. And it's really easy to use if you want a case for it. Just know when you power down your gimbal and it folds, if you have filters on it, it will not fold all the way back to keep that lens safe. So this is the internal audio on this thing, and it sounds pretty good. Like, it's not the worst I've ever heard, but it's definitely not the best either. DJI did a good job because DJI makes microphones, so they did a good job on this. But when you hook up a microphone, it's just gonna sound a little bit better because you see, having an external microphone,
helps audio sound better. And you see what happened when I attached this DJI 2 via Bluetooth to the Pocket 3. That audio just got a little better, a little crispier, and just sounds better. And like I said, it's via Bluetooth with these DJI Mic 2s. So that's very nice that you don't have to have your receiver hooked in. You don't have to have anything like that. You can just turn it on, walk around, and do something like this, or obviously take it off, have it on your shirt, whatever it might be, in order to create those videos. If you have the DJI Mic 1s, the Hollyland mics, or the Rode wireless mics, you can still use them. You just have to hook the receiver into the USB-C port, which can kind of make this little Pocket 3 a little beefier and not as much pocket friendly.
So this is just what a normal log profile looks like without any LUT slapped on, without any editing. But let's see what the normal color profile would look like if you were to use it. So this is what the normal color profile looks like, and it looks pretty good without having to edit anything. So if you want to shoot straight like this, you could easily get away with it and learn about coloring later. Absolutely do that if you want to do that. Little oversaturated for my taste, but it still looks good. Now, the clarity and the sharpness are still at a -2. So this isn't what it would look like straight out of the box. But next we'll go to HLG. So this is HLG, and if you're wondering, that looks kind of like D-Log M. Well, HLG stands for Hybrid Log Gamma. So similar, but different. You can use this more in HDR or high dynamic range monitors, a lot with like a Rec 2020 versus a Rec 709 that you would use for D-Log M. I personally don't know much about it, but it's on there if you want to use it.
So if you want to know what it would look like straight out of the box, this image is exactly what you would get. I have my shutter speed in auto, so it's going to go all over the place. I have the ISO in auto as well. Color profile, we're in normal. And the glamour effect is on. And we didn't really touch too much on the glamour effect. The glamour effect is an interesting one. Basically, it's supposed to kind of polish up the skin. It can even actually slim down the face. So if I look a little different, that could be why, but it will do that. It's one of those things that maybe you can use it if you want to. I personally never do. If you're somebody that vlogs a lot and you're going to be in front of the camera a lot using this, maybe you want to do it. I don't know. Maybe it'll help you out. I have no idea. And then we have the sharpness and the clarity both set to default. And this is what you would get. And it's pretty nice. But the thing I forgot is that I'm using this mic. This is what you would get straight out of the box, which is not terrible. It's actually pretty good. Like if you want to start creating with just this, you're going to look better than half the people creating on the internet, in my opinion. So think about that. This looks pretty good, but we've got another test we got to do. And since I'm outside and the road's right there, let's do it.
I should have put shoes on for this, but I didn't because I was just standing in my driveway and I didn't think I was going to be walking down the street, but it is what it is. But what I wanted to do was actually work on the autofocus of this, right? We can see the autofocus is really good. The autofocus and the auto tracking. And you can see the auto tracking's keeping up with me, switching hands pretty well. I don't want to make anyone dizzy or make myself dizzy using this either. But it's holding up pretty good. If I hold it up there, hold it out to the front, side to side, we can see this thing definitely holds up. And even if we run a little bit, right? Oof, running on concrete and bare feet, not fun. But you can see anything for the video, right? Not bad, staying on me. So one thing about the auto tracking is it will track you from a distance. You don't have to be right on it. It will track you from a farther distance away. Not too far, but far enough where I can walk up and it's still tracking. I can look at it. I can walk past it. Now, if I walk past it and it stops moving, here's the thing. I can walk back in frame and it's going to start tracking on me again. Now, this might not always work just due to there being, trees in the background, or maybe an animal comes by, a person comes by.
So now we're doing a quick low light test. I'm at 3200 ISO, and as you can see, it's pretty dark out. My exposure value is underexposed. I'm at a -1.3. So as you can tell, it can do low light, but would I use this in a lot of low light situations as compared to my full frame camera? Probably not, but 3200 ISO is the highest it goes up to. And it's doing a decent job. So if you need to get something just very, very quickly before it gets like pitch black out, then you're going to absolutely be able to do it with this camera. Plus, the way you can denoise things in post nowadays, you can absolutely do that in something like DaVinci Resolve. So if it gets too noisy, try throwing it in there and seeing if that works. But 3200 ISO, if you just need to absolutely get that footage, then just don't be afraid to crank it up, because that's what it's there for. It's better to get that footage than miss that footage, even if it's a little noisy.
But that's all I got about the Pocket 3. I am sure there are things I missed out there because it's a piece of camera gear. These things have tons of specs to it, and a video like this is long, it's tedious, and that's watching it. Imagine trying to create a video like this. It is a monster. It took me days upon days to get everything right, and then edit it, and then realize I still missed things, and then go back and re-record it. So I don't know. They're tough to do, and that's why this video was so long, because I was trying to get every detail I could so that way you could make that informed decision. But if this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up, and if it wasn't, give it a thumbs down. Tell me what I missed. Tell me the thing that you think is important on this camera and why you would buy it. And the other thing you could absolutely do is tell me the thing I missed that you found I should have added into this video, because I am sure there is something out there that was important that I missed. So I would love to hear what that was. And if you got a second, hit that subscribe button, because we're almost at 1,000. And it'd be cool to hit 1,000 before the end of the year. I think we got 150 some odd subs to go. So wouldn't that be cool if we did that? Anyway, I appreciate you hanging out with me. As always, God bless. I'll see you in the next one.